Today we're going to create a mashup, a fun and adventurous way to make something fresh out of something stale.
Pop music or music from different genres seems untouchable. You know, Elton John seems untouchable. Obviously, they create that and they force that idea in your mind that these people are superstars, they're untouchable. So just being able to just manipulate and do whatever you want, you know, just kind of put Elton John in a headlock and just, you know, put a beat behind him and pour a beer on his head.
Whether or not you think this music is original isn't the point, because the rules of this game don't depend on who made the songs. They depend on who owns the copyright. And according to the people that do, sampling even a single note is grounds for a lawsuit. That means these kids should not be dancing, and you shouldn't be watching, because using these songs in my movie is against the rules too. And the fact that there are people out there calling my favorite artist a criminal is exactly why I need to make this film. The internet allowed me to connect from my island to the world, to communicate ideas with millions of others, and a media-literate generation emerged, able to download the world's culture and transform it into something different. And we called our new language remix. Consumers were now creators, making the folk art of the future. But the people who owned the culture that we remixed, they represented the past, and they declared war. They didn't see a great library or an information superhighway. They saw a supermarket, and they wanted to get paid. Culture always builds on the past, but the past will always try to control the future. Our future is becoming less free. And to build free societies, we need to limit the control of the past. What these kids are doing on this dance floor is unraveling that control. The future and the past are dueling it out right here, and whoever wins gets to decide if ideas will be determined by the public domain or private corporations in science, industry, medicine, our entire culture. But let's start with everyone's favorite battle, music. Remember the manifesto? Culture always builds on the past.
This may be my last time. This may be my last time, children.
It's a bittersweet symphony that's life, trying to make ends meet. You're a slave to money, then you die.
By 1998, the music industry was raking in over $13 billion a year. And that's when an 18-year-old college dropout invented Napster, a program that transformed the world's computers into a peer-to-peer music sharing network. The record industry realized that in this future, they would lose control. So when Napster offered to pay $1 billion in exchange for a license to allow their users to keep copying, the record industry refused to evolve, parted with history, and started suing.
What is it about this?
In essence, it's about control. It's really about controlling what you own.
To own and control his own art.
Yes, is controlling that. Time out for 1 second. Part of what we're trying to do here is make people understand that what they're doing is illegal.
That means come clean, delete your files, and promise to never, ever do it again.
We had built up the greatest library of music in history. But it also meant we didn't need the record labels anymore, because now we were all distributors.
for the longest period of time, the industry had controlled technology, and therefore the people were subservient to that technology. This is like the power goes back to the people.
Welcome to point 2. The established powers of the past will always try to control the future.
These are communities. They're being created by the opportunity this technology makes available. And these communities engage in a kind of conversation, each one taking what the other had done and adding to it, mixing it and changing it, and engaging in a creative act. The importance of this remix has nothing to do with the technique that each of these videos demonstrates. The importance is that this technique has now been democratized. This remix gives anyone with access to a $1,500 computer the power to say things differently. This is writing in the 21st century. It is literacy for a new generation. It is building a different democracy. It is building a different culture, where people participate in the creation and the recreation of the culture around us, a form of culture that has existed from the beginning of human society all the way through the present, except for one century, the 20th century.
In the 1960s, a cartoonist named Dan O'Neill wanted to turn American capitalism on its head. And for him, Mickey Mouse was the only character for the job. O'Neill and a collective of proto-remixers known as the Air Pirates reimagined Mickey as a drug-dealing revolutionary. Disney sued, repeatedly. It was a love generation standoff between freedom of speech versus the right of a corporation to control its intellectual property.
Are we supposed to say certain things are off limits to making art? Is art off limits? Is other people's art off limits, you know, to making art? That doesn't make any sense. That's just silly. That's just some business guy's way of thinking.
The corporations are completely taking over our culture and telling us that we can only consume it. And we're saying no. We're saying we want to actually create with it, respond to it, take it, mutilate it, cut it up. We're saying, you don't ask us whether I want to have a billboard everywhere I go in my town. You don't ask me if I want to see your Nike logo everywhere I go. You don't ask me if I want to hear YouTube's music everywhere I go shopping or when I eat in a restaurant. So why do I need to ask you to take a little bit of it and make something out of it and make fun of you, critique you? Why do I need to ask?
My home and native land was singled out as one of the world's worst pirate nations, and they sent their cops after us.
Jackie and I on a mission to stop piracy. Stop piracy! That's coming in.
The wish list for Canada was simple: lock up culture. Which brings us to point 3. Our future is becoming less free.
How many of you guys here actually do download music off the internet right now? Tell the truth. Do you guys, like, how many of you guys actually think that when you're downloading your music that you're stealing it?
Internet and MySpace. I think we're living in the greatest period of time for music ever. So anyone can be popular, anyone's music can be heard. It's no one's controlling anything. It's back in the people's hands for the first time in a long time.
Listen to this latest remix of our favorite bittersweet song. It was created by the same country that defied United States intellectual property laws by breaking multiple international patents on HIV medication, producing their own copies of the drug for a fraction of the price. Free, universal access for citizens was their mission. The drug industry saw this as an act of war. Brazil saw it as an act of life. This is not a world made up of passive consumers anymore. That era is over. This world is made up of collaborators. We can create and share. We can change laws. We can act.